My name is Paul Saltzman, and I edit investigative stories and projects for the Chicago Sun-Times. As an editor, one of the main things I look for in a story is sourcing. What I mean by that is, where did my reporters get the information we have? How reliable are our sources of information? How thorough were they in trying to find and talk with the full range of sources we should try to get? And how do we present the sourcing that we have to our readers? Good sourcing is essential to good reporting. It's a key way as an editor that I judge how good a story is and whether we've done enough reporting. It's also a tool that you as a news consumer can use to determine how much weight to give to a particular story, to help you decide how credible the information is. Here are 7 key points about sourcing that you should keep in mind when you're looking at a news report. Number 1, the number of sources cited in a story. Is it a one-source story? That might be fine if it's a story about the weather tomorrow and your source is a weather forecaster, but in other cases, it can be a sign that a story was underreported. An investigative story that relies on a single source, for instance, will be something to be wary of. Number 2, transparency of sourcing. Does the report make clear what the sources of information are? This is important because it helps you determine whether this is fact-based reporting or rumor presented as news. Where did the story come from? Is it based on other news organizations reporting? Did it come from something that someone saw on the internet? Is it opinion? Or did the reporter go out and find the facts behind the story? And if that's the case, does the reporter say where the information came from? All of this helps you to gauge the reliability of the information rather than just having to take the reporter's word that what's presented is factual reporting. Number 3, authority. This is something that can be tough to judge as an outsider, but you can use your common sense here. Ask yourself, are the people quoted or cited in a news report in a position to know what they're talking about? Anyone can comment on anything. That doesn't mean they know the subject. Does the reporter seem to have tried to talk with and to cite sources who know the subject well? It's a good sign of the authority of a source and also of a news report when a reporter spells out how the people who are quoted in a story know the things they're talking about. For instance, do they have first-hand knowledge, or is this something they've heard about but don't know directly? Number 4, variety of sources. I talked a little earlier about the need to get more than one source of information for any thoroughly reported story. This is about more than just numbers. Having multiple sources helps reporters make sure they get things right. It also helps to ensure that they get the full story. A reporter might have 2 sources confirming a fact. As an editor, I want to know more than that. I want to know, did the 2 sources know this independently, or did they get this information from the same person? That's not always something that's apparent to you as the reader or viewer. Still, when I see a news story, it generally gives me more of a feeling of confidence in the report when I can tell by the variety of sources that the reporter has tried to be thorough in researching and presenting the subject. Number 5, motives. This comes up often with investigative reporting. Why are sources saying the things they're saying or providing the information they're providing? And why are they doing that now? Just because someone has an ulterior motive doesn't mean the information they provide isn't credible, but this is something that the reporter should consider in deciding what's reliable information to use, and it's something also to consider as a news consumer when you think about how much you can trust what you're reading or watching, and also in deciding whether it seems to be complete and fair. Number 6, anonymous sources. As someone who provides news stories to the public, I prefer that those stories be clear about where their information comes from, including identifying the people whom my reporter spoke with to get that information. I think a story comes across as more believable when sources are named, but that isn't always possible. Sometimes people won't talk unless they're guaranteed anonymity. Most famously, that's what happened with the Washington Post's reporting in the 1970s on the Watergate scandal. A key element of that reporting was the confirmation provided by an anonymous source. The reporters identified that source in the book and movie All the President's Men as Deep Throat, who years later was revealed to have been Mark Felt, a top FBI official.
Just follow the money.
When reporters and editors decide to use information from an anonymous source, they're putting their credibility on the line. They're asking you to trust that they took steps to verify the information and that they are confident that it's true. So as an added step, they'll try to verify the information with sources who can be named. When you read or watch a story that cites anonymous sources, You'll want to pay attention to what the reporter says about why you should believe the information. That's often done by describing, at least in general terms, how the anonymous source is in a position to have the information. But be wary of news reports that use anonymous sources not to provide key information, but instead to smear a person from behind a cloak of anonymity. Number 7, documents. People aren't the only sources of information for news reports. Some of the biggest stories come from documents. Government reports or recordings, court files, computerized records. They're also often some of the most credible stories. This is especially true with investigative reporting. Stories for which reporters have put in more time and more research and found a wrong that they are revealing to the public. Documents can provide proof that a story is true. An unusual example of this that's been in the news recently is the reporting that came out of the WikiLeaks case. An American soldier named Bradley Manning was convicted of criminal charges for providing what turned out to be the largest unauthorized release of U.S. government secrets in this country's history. Manning's lawyer said his goal was to give the American public a better look at U.S. military policy and to stir debate. Another example of a major story based on classified documents involved a U.S. intelligence contractor named Edward Snowden. The documents he leaked revealed that the National Security Agency was secretly collecting phone and internet records on a massive scale. An example of a story that relied heavily on documentary sources is my own newspaper's reporting over the past couple of years that led to the indictment of a nephew of former Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley in the death of a man in 2004. That reporting already had created a lot of waves, based mostly on human sources, when the reporters turned up a police report that cast doubt on the official version of what had happened. That helped lead to the appointment of a special prosecutor and the indictment of the mayor's nephew. Something that helped that story's credibility is that we made the documents that we cited available online so readers could see them and judge for themselves. When a news report presents facts based on documents as well as people, that can add up to a fuller picture and a more credible story. All right, let's recap what sourcing is and how it can help you decide how credible a news report is. Sourcing generally refers to where a story comes from and how complete and reliable it is. Some important things that you can look for regarding sourcing to help you decide how credible a news report is are, number 1, does the report include more than one source? Number 2, did the reporter do a good job of being clear about what sources were used and give you information to help you gauge their reliability? Number 3, is it clear that the sources cited in the report are in a position to know what they're talking about? Number 4, is there a variety of sourcing to help you see that the reporter was thorough and complete in trying to obtain the information? Number 5, does the story give any indication why a source is providing the information? Number 6, if there are unnamed sources, does the story explain why they aren't identified and how they know what they know? And does it back that up with other sources? And number 7, are there documents cited in the report as proof of the story's key elements? And if so, are they posted online so you can see them for yourself? I hope this lesson about sourcing will help you to evaluate news and other kinds of information that you encounter. I'm Paul Saltzman from the Chicago Sun-Times.